Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So in this one, I wanted to really talk about some potential cap casualties from other teams that could make sense for the New York Jets. Now, what's really interesting, right, we're seeing all the different, mock off seasons with free agent targets and mock drafts and stuff like that, which is all cool. But of course, the picture is going to change because teams are going to start releasing players. And when that starts happening, all of a sudden more money gets freed up. There are more teams for potential targets out there, as well as more talent out in the open market. So it's kind of like this big free for all, right? And so I wanted to talk about 6 different potential cap casualties here with a bonus one at the end. And again, it's not a guarantee that all these guys are going to be released, but this is just the projection at this point in time based off of last season's production, slash age, slash what these guys are going to be getting paid moving forward. As well as their respective team's cap space. So the first name up here, let's not waste any more time. First name up on the list is a name that we've talked about a lot. Kirk Cousins, quarterback from the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we had the recent reworking of Kirk Cousins' deal hinting at the Falcons moving on, right? And I understand that Michael Penix is coming off the ACL. I understand that Stefanski worked with Cousins before. And yeah, you can maybe argue, okay, start Cousins for like the first half of the season until Penix is ready, and then you can make the move. I think it's just too expensive. I think it's too expensive for the Atlanta Falcons to do that. I just feel like, and also too, for what it's worth, Kirk Cousins wants to start. He believes he's a top 32 starter in the league. He does not want to be a backup. He doesn't want to go and like compete for a job. He wants to be a starter. So with that said, the New York Jets need a starter. We have an offensive line that can keep Kirk Cousins upright. We have enough free agency dollars to, fairly compensate him. I'm not saying overpay or anything crazy like that. I mean, look at the position that the Falcons are in. But again, going back to the team, Cousins would have a wide receiver 1 in Garrett Wilson to throw to, as well as potential other moves that the New York Jets can make. And then we start looking at the connections specifically with this team. Well, first and foremost, when he left Washington and went to go sign with the Minnesota Vikings, Rick Spielman was the Vikings general manager, right? Rick Spielman knows the type of player. He understands the backstory with Kirk Cousins through and through. I mean, he's, not only was he with Cousins for all those years in Minnesota, but of course, to actually go out and say, hey, you know what, we're going to push our chips into the middle of the table and sign Cousins initially, there had to be a big time scouting process to where the Vikings felt comfortable making that move to begin with. So I feel like from that standpoint, and also from Cousins' point of view, he understands Spielman, he gets him, he knows him, he understands that he might not, lead him astray, because Spielman, of course, was fired, and it was the new general manager that didn't want to bring Cousins back in the first place, who now, ironically enough, is fired. But in any case, you have that connection. You also look at the Frank Reich connection. Does Cousins fit the Frank Reich offense? I think the answer is yes, because he can mentally process at a high level. He can understand what he needs to do from an offensive standpoint. He can make checks at the line, audible, switch in and out of things, get the offense into a favorable look. He understands the importance of being able to just check the football down when need be. He has the ability to read a defense. He's not going to be overwhelmed. Is he on the same athletic level as a Lamar, Kyler, or Josh Allen? No, obviously not. But he's a mental processor, and I think that's the number one key in Frank Reich's offense. You got to be able to process, analyze, and let it rip. He puts a lot on these guys' plate. I think Kirk Cousins makes a ton of sense for the Jets. It's not the sexy name here. He's not a top 5 quarterback. He's not a top 10 quarterback. I completely get it. But for where the Jets are currently at, I think he would make sense. I think he would provide at least a bit of a stable hand, if you will, as well as being able to mentor someone like a Ty Simpson or somebody like that coming in from this NFL draft class. So with Cousins, the number one potential cap casualty this season, let's move on to the running back position. Now, the whole thing with Breece Hall is just so up in the air. Will he be here? Will he be back? Will he be franchise tagged? Will he be extended on a big money deal? If he has a similar deal from another team, it feels like he's going to go to the other team. He says all the right stuff. You have like cryptic social. It just feels all over the place with Brees, and I feel like he's not going to be back. That's just my guess, unless the Jets, of course, use their franchise tag, because if he hits the open market and you have teams in a better position to win right now compared to the Jets, right? Say, for example, the Chiefs hand out a contract that looks similar, maybe a little bit less, maybe like $3, $4, $5 million less than what the Jets are offering. I feel like he's going to go to Kansas City, right? We all know the overall shelf life of running backs. They don't play for 12, 15 years, right? Or at least not at a high level. So you kind of have to make this second contract really count and get into a position, get into a team that you really want to be with, right? And if the losing and whatnot is really taking a toll on Brees, who knows if he's going to be back. So with that being said, in the event that Brees is not back, there are some pretty good potential free agent options like Travis Etienne, like Javonte Williams from Dallas, Rico Dowdle, Carolina, Kenneth Walker from Seattle. Man, that would be awesome. But the Chicago Bears might move on from DeAndre Swift. And again, I feel like if the Jets say maybe miss out on Brees Hall at like 11, 12, $10 million per season, you can go out and target a DeAndre Swift for 6, 7 mil. Like, that is totally realistic. I mean, Swift's coming off a 1,000-yard season. He has the experience working with Aaron Glenn. I love Braylon Allen, but I don't really view him as an RB1 bell cow back. I kind of view him as the complementary piece. And he's also coming off an injury. So if you can go get DeAndre Swift for, let's just say, 6 mil after we've already lost Brees Hall, that to me would not be a bad pickup in the slightest. You know, you're getting still a powerful runner, someone who can obviously still play. Again, just looking at this past season, he's going to be running behind a really effective offensive line. You know, how big of a drop off from, I'm not talking from a talent standpoint, from a pure production standpoint, are you getting from Brees to DeAndre Swift? Is it catastrophic? Is it not so much? I really don't feel like it's this, well, we're rolling DeAndre Swift out instead of Brees Hall. Like, that's going to cost us 5 wins. Like, I can't, I don't see that, right? DeAndre Swift, in my opinion, makes sense. Now, let's take a look at wide receivers. So one big name that I'm always seeing, not only just with Jets mock off seasons, but with every single team, is Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce, multi-year deal, 20 plus mil. The rumor right now is people are going to be, quote unquote, shocked to see what Alec Pierce gets in free agency. I've seen some guesses like 22 mil, 23 mil. Some people have even said up to 27 mil, which is just crazy to think about. But we live in a day and age where the wide receiver position gets paid. Alec Pierce is a super efficient wide receiver, man. Down the field, boxing out guys, just making plays, high point of the football. Like, he's a really good player, but it feels like the Colts want him back. I just can't see Shane Steichen, you know, everybody's jobs are on the line, and then just saying, see you, Pierce. Like, you've been a really good, really productive homegrown player for us in the second round. Later. They have $35 million in cap space. So could the Colts, instead of letting Alec Pierce walk, could they part ways with Michael Pittman, who has a $20 million cap hit for this season? If they flat out release Pittman, that will save the Colts 24 mil. So if you want it, right, if you're a Colts fan, you can essentially cut Michael Pittman, give that money to Alec Pierce, maybe have like $1 mil or $2 million left over to tack on to the $35 million in space. Keep in mind that the Colts also have to bring back Daniel Jones or figure out the quarterback position if they don't go with Daniel Jones, right? So it's not like they can just keep that contract there and just say, okay, Alec Pierce, out of our 35 mil, here's 25, here's 24, and now we're down to $9 to $12 million left to figure out every other hole on this team. Yes, of course, we have the NFL draft, but with the hole at quarterback and jobs are on the hot seat, I feel like there will be a tough decision made here, and I could very well see Pittman walking out the door. Now, Pittman, I feel like would be a fantastic wide receiver too for this Jets team. He's 28 years old. He is consistent. He's coming off a season with 80 catches, 784 receiving yards with 7 touchdowns. I love how durable Michael Pittman is, right? He drafted in 2020. He's played in 95 career games. He hardly misses time. He hardly gets hurt. He's just steady. He's consistent. I know who he is. He's going to line up out there. He's going to win contested jump balls. He's going to get his. He's going to make plays in the boundary. Can win one-on-one matchups. I think he complements Garrett Wilson really, really well. Man, that'd be such a sweet pickup. And then you throw on top of it that Frank Reich drafted him in the second round back in 2020. If Michael Pittman is out on the open market and the New York Jets have, they don't make a move with like a Romeo Doubs or Juwan Jennings or Wan'Dale Robinson or an Alec Pierce, I want Pittman. Now, another interesting name here is Marshon Lattimore of the Commanders. Now, I will say Washington has a ton of cap space. They don't necessarily need to cut Lattimore to like get underneath the cap or something. But Lattimore is due $18.5 million. That's his cap hit for this season. His play definitely has taken a step back since those New Orleans Saints days, but that $18.5 million is not guaranteed. So you're saving that much if you're Washington, and Washington's defense just needs a ton of work. I feel like Washington can pivot that 18 mil and use it in other ways. But why I bring it up is because A, the New York Jets need some cornerback depth, and B, Aaron Glenn he worked with Marshon Lattimore right back when he was the DB coach with the New Orleans Saints. I feel like Lattimore right now would be an interesting option. I don't think really he would command a ton of money on the on the free agent market. But if he wants to come in to a room that right now feels like on paper it's okay, like Azari Thomas, Brandon Stevens, Brownlee, okay, cool. But it's like, okay, if we have one injury, all of a sudden corner is a major need. If we think about Azari Thomas and the time that he missed due to injury, if he comes back and maybe doesn't look the same immediately, okay, cornerback could be a need. So I don't want us to necessarily just forget about the position and just, from a Madden standpoint, just say like, we have, a couple names. We're fine. Corner feels like a position right now where, again, it's just like one thing happens, we face a little bit of adversity there, and then the floodgates are open, right? This is becoming a massive problem. Now, I do feel like Amik Robertson would make a ton of sense for this Jets team because of the leadership, his ability to play on the outside and on the inside, knowing Aaron Glenn fitting that system, also knowing Brian Duker as well, coming in from Detroit. But if he re-signs with Detroit, if he ends up elsewhere, I feel like Lattimore could potentially be another option. Now, if Lattimore can maybe recapture some of what he showed back with New Orleans, obviously at the time he was a top 5 corner. I loved how he would follow the number one and he would lock down certain guys and he would talk trash and back it up. Like he was just a really cool player, gritty, physical. I remember that rivalry that he had with Mike Evans. It was always pretty cool. But I wouldn't, if Marshon Lattimore is just out on the free agent market and just seeing how active the Jets have been over this last calendar year with targeting corner. It's just, there's so much focus on the position, and with us still not having it 100% solved, I feel like I wouldn't sleep on it. Now, there's a receiver that's set to hit the open market in Wan'Dale Robinson, who I really want the Jets to target. I think he is a bit of a sleeping giant, if you will, 24 years old, coming off the best season of his career. He's gotten better from year 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 in so many different areas. You look at yards of separation that Wan'Dale can create. It's flat out awesome. He can literally create with some of the best of them. I think that Wan'Dale would open up opportunities for Garrett on the outside, take pressure off of him, and he would provide consistent open targets, specifically on third downs for whoever's playing quarterback for the team. I also think you can probably get him under $20 million per season because he's a slot wide receiver. But he could be back with the Giants. He could sign elsewhere. If the Jets don't go after Robinson, there's a chance that the Atlanta Falcons could release Darnell Mooney, saving $7.5 million against the cap. Look, I know Mooney's coming off a disappointing season, right? Only 443 receiving yards, 32 catches, but I still feel like he could play. He's only 28 years old. If we go back and look at what he did in 2024, he had just under 1,000 receiving yards at 992 with 5 TDs. I don't think that Mooney would come in and solve every issue at wide receiver, but I think he would provide veteran experience. I think he would provide durability, someone that whoever's playing quarterback, whether it's a vet, whether it's a rookie, whoever, he can be someone that this quarterback can lean on, right? Because he always plays. Mooney misses like one game a season. Again, durable, reliable. We know where he's going to be. Savvy route runner. I like Darnell Mooney. And if you could potentially bring him in for less than 10, again, it's assuming you maybe miss out or you don't want to pay. You don't want to go in like the mid-20s for one of these wide receiver twos, or you want to sign Darnell Mooney, bring him into the fold for like, say, less than 10 mil, and then draft another wide receiver. And now it's like, whoa, this is shaping up to be a really nice core. That could be something that I'd be interested in. Also, Kirk Cousins and Darnell have a pretty good relationship by all reports, and also good chemistry on the field. Is there a world where the Jets snag both of these guys, Kirk Cousins and Darnell Mooney, get them both into the fold? I think that would be a really sweet pairing for this Jets offense. So Darnell, again, I understand that he's coming off a down season, but Atlanta's coming off a down season. They fired Raheem Morris. There were quarterback question marks. Penix got hurt. You kind of felt like it was amazing one game and then not, they looked a mess another game, just very inconsistent, but they ended the season on a hot streak. But regardless, Darnell could very well be a cap casualty. Now, I also want to talk about Bradley Chubb here for a sec, because Bradley Chubb, I feel like fits this defense. I think he provides stability at the defensive end position for the Jets. He's kind of this do-it-all player. He can fit in a 4-3. He can fit in a 3-4. He's a powerful player. He's been known to stop the run at a really effective level. This past season, a little bit weird for sure, but much like Atlanta, it just kind of felt like there were issues all over the place. And when I look at Chubb, of course, you have the Darren Muji connection, right? Darren Muji was a part of the Denver Broncos when they initially drafted Chubb. So you have that there. And, when Chubb was producing for Denver. But also, you look at how many times Bradley Chubb has been linked to the Lions for trades over these past couple of seasons. Like, it is just like every offseason, you could just, do the quick Google search of Bradley Chubb Lions trade rumors, and you're going to find multiple articles. There's always Lions fans talking about like, man, Bradley Chubb. So could the Jets be in a position where they're looking at the team saying, hey, you know what? We have the money to pay him. We have a massive need at edge. We have a general manager who did his due diligence on Bradley Chubb coming out of North Carolina State, who was with him in Denver. We have a system that pretty much favors Bradley Chubb's skill set. Could it make sense? I feel like if Chubb is down for the rebuild, then yeah, it totally could. But if Chubb wants to sign on to a Lions, right, one of these teams, if he does in fact get released, yeah, I do feel like he fits Halfley's system as well, if I'm just being honest. But look, if the Dolphins can save $7.3 million against the cap, and they're starting their rebuild, and they're going to have to move off of Tua, or potentially move off of Tua, I should say, potentially move off of Tyreek Hill, I don't necessarily know if they're going to just flat out keep him. I mean, maybe they can do that, but I'm just not 100% sure. So again, if Chubb is out there, 29 years old, I really would not mind I'm just putting myself in the shoes, right? Second day of free agency, I look down at my phone, breaking news: the New York Jets have reached an agreement with Bradley Chubb on a 3-year contract, 2-year deal or something. Like, I would think about what that does with the edge room. Then you just imagine an Arvell Reese, a Reuben Bain, a David Bailey or something at 2. And all of a sudden the defensive end room is Bradley Chubb, Jermaine Johnson, one of the rookies at 2, and Will McDonald as the designated pass rusher. I mean, all of us talk about heating up the quarterback, right? Talk about just cranking up the overall pass rush. No, those to me were the key 6. I do want to throw in one extra bonus. There's a chance that he could get released, but I feel like it's unlikely, and I feel like before he's released, this team would really try to want to trade him before just outright cutting him. And it's Rashan Gary of the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers would save $11 million, and Rashan Gary is supposed to cost Green Bay $28 million. Obviously, the team went out and they traded their picks for Michael Parsons. And Gary has never been a double-digit sack guy, right? This past season, 7.5. The season before that, 7.5. Season before that, 9. Season before that, 6. Season before that, 9.5. He's never been that 11, 12, 13.5 sack guy. And so could the Packers, with the now added Michael Parsons contract and no first round pick here, could they want to maybe pivot off of the Rashan Gary deal, save some money there, recycle that cap savings into maybe some cheaper players where they can, cross some more needs off the list? Green Bay now has Halfley off the team. So I really wonder if with Jonathan Gannon coming in, is he going to want to maybe add more talent and again cross off maybe more so team needs while moving on from Gary and saying, hey, I got Parsons and he's going to do great. I mean, again, this is why I wanted to add him in as the bonus, because I feel like it's unlikely. But if Rashan Gary's out in the open market, let's just say the Packers end up doing it, they cut him, boom, he's out there. Rashan Gary would truly open up a lot. He would give the Jets a lot of flexibility on their defensive line. In fact, when I look at Ruben Bain, I feel like he's a bit of a shorter arm version of Rashan Gary. Someone who's violent, someone who's powerful, someone who's great against the run, someone who can play in a 4-3, a 3-4, win from the outside, win from the inside. Gary, of course, again, has the longer arm length, but when you talk about the versatility that Gary could provide this Jets defensive line, it would be great. Right? 4-3 D end. He can kick inside and rush from the inside as well. Every way that we envision Ruben Bain, we can envision Rashan Gary in that same exact way. So, but again, right? The Jets, you kind of feel like would have to pay a lot to go get. Now, who knows? Like, Hendrickson will be out there. Maybe Max Crosby gets traded. So there are going to be some other edge rushers potentially on the move here. Owe from the Chargers is looking to be paid a ton of money. But look, if Gary's out there, to me, as a free agent, I feel like Gary would be right there next to Trey Hendrickson. But Gary has the age advantage on Hendrickson. So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. And then, there's some other names too, like Grover Stewart from Indianapolis and whatnot. But I felt like for me, I wanted to do my top 6 plus an extra bonus. That kind of feels a little unrealistic, but wanted to throw him in to the mix as well. So anyway, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I'll leave the full article listed down below in the description as well to check out. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. And as always, go Jets.